Welcome to Taking the Tradition On. And tonight, all my guests are exciting, but I am particularly excited about tonight's guest because we have a fabulous Moroccan storyteller, Zouhair Khaznaoui. And Zouhair, he is a stalwart of the Moroccan storytelling tradition. He's one of the backbones of the World Storytelling Cafe, and he is the driving force really behind the Marrakech International Storytelling Festival, which is going to start and happen very soon for the first time, beginning on the 12th of February. And I'm going, fingers crossed, with a tailwind and all tests negative and everything else. I will be on a plane and be there. So I'm very excited to learn more about the Moroccan storytelling tradition, Morocco and Marrakech, and of course, Zouhair's own fabulous journey, which I think we could spend more. We're going to struggle to fit everything into an hour tonight, but it's going to be absolutely fascinating. So please put your hands together, your virtual hands together on the chat for the amazing Zouhair Khaznaoui. Welcome to Taking the Tradition On.
Thank you, Amy. I hope I can manage to stay humble after such an introduction.
And no, don't bother.
Thank you, everyone, for being here and joining this webinar. I'm really excited for it. I mean, something I have never told you, Amy. I mean, I started becoming a fan of you after the last session I've had with John.
Hey,
your poetry was very nice. It's I mean, I still have it in my mind. So thank you again for inviting me.
Well, my head mic starts to get big too. Anyway, so I've been learning more about Morocco, and Morocco's been much more in my mind over the lockdown because, of course, of the World Storytelling Cafe and finding out more about Morocco. I've always known it's an old storytelling tradition, but I'm really I only just know the very surface level of it. I'm really excited to know more, and I don't know where everybody else's starting point is. So everybody else, what do you know about Morocco? What do you know about Marrakech and the Moroccan storytelling tradition? Have you got any things in your head that you instantly think, Morocco, yes, it's about this? And I'm going to invite you all to put things on the chat, share your knowledge. But while you do, obviously everybody within a country has a different viewpoint and a different experience. And I'd love you, Zouhair, to just paint a picture of your Morocco, of what your daily sights and sounds and smells are. What means that you're home?
That's such a wonderful question, and very hard for me to answer. I mean, it's really hard to talk about your own country because there are a lot of things that you can see, bad and good, but things that I always think about when I think about Morocco. First of all, it's timeless. I mean, the sense of time in Morocco is a bit different. I mean, I lived in Europe for a couple of years, but I always felt that I belong to Morocco. I mean, a lot of my friends and family just tell me, okay, I mean, you studied in Europe and you started working in Europe. Why did you come back? I just say that it's really magical because Morocco is, for me, is where I can unleash my full potential. Whatever I am meant to do, the purpose for myself is within Morocco. So and talking about the tradition of storytelling, as I am a storyteller, it's really magnificent because a lot of people say a lot of things, and they say that it's goes back for tens of thousands of years. I mean, or since the first person who spoke in Morocco. But what I know about Moroccans, and whoever goes to Morocco will quickly notice that, is that everyone is a storyteller, especially in my city, in Marrakech. So you just go into a taxi, and then the taxi driver starts telling you a story, maybe about himself, maybe about another client he had a couple of days ago. And you go to the souk, to the local market. You just want to buy 2 kilograms of carrots, and you end up with a lot of stories from the one who sells vegetables.
Well, we
And
do
you
have a
go.
Moroccan with us tonight. Sabrine, do you recognise yourself in this?
Mhm,
Peter, is your wife always telling stories? so, so yeah, we've got Sabrine here. Is it Sabrine or
mhm,
Sabrina? Who is Moroccan? She's a
mhm.
writer. There we go. So she writes the stories down.
She's Moroccan, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I don't know
Of
where. I
course,
don't know where in Morocco. Yeah, Peter's agreeing. Yeah, she's definitely a storyteller.
of course.
So, is there any differentiation
Mhm.
in Morocco between sort of personal stories and traditional stories? Is there a definite kind of marker? And now I'm going to tell you a real story, a traditional story,
Mhm.
or do you just sort of flow in between the two?
Um, Actually, there is a big difference. Um, I mean, history-wise, and I'm gonna be a little bit factual. I've been doing a research and following the traces in Moroccan literature or Andalusian literature or even Arabic literature, traces of people who came to Morocco, and I found traces of 900, 850 years ago. There were storytellers in Marrakech, exactly in Marrakech. That's why I believe that Marrakech is the birth of storytelling in Morocco. Storytelling as a profession, as a craft. So uh, the first storyteller I came across who lived in Marrakech 800 or 860 or 70 years ago. He was telling stories in Jamaatna Square with someone, with a young teller who would learn from him. So he was a master storyteller, and he will tell stories about people from different cities. So he will tell about people from Fes and Marrakech and Tangier and Rabat having a conversation or dealing with a situation altogether. And that was actually comedy. And following through that, this is the importance of storytellers in Morocco in general, because the Moroccan culture is an oral culture. I mean, we don't write a lot, so everything is transmitted via story. I mean, a father will teach his son with a story. A grandmother will gather her grandsons around her and tell them a story, not just for the sake of making them sleep, but teaching them about life. We had no TV, we had no technology back then. Even like 30 or 40 years ago, there was no TV for most of the Moroccan families. So the only source of entertainment were the storytellers. And actually, the storytellers, back in the past, they played an important role for the royal families. And they are a little bit similar to the fool in English literature, because they are there not only to entertain the royal family, but to make them wiser and to make them aware about how people live in their kingdom. So, for example, a storyteller would roam around around the narrow alleys of Marrakech, listen and look at people, how they manage and they deal with their daily lives, and how do they feel about the royal families. And he would form a story out of that, or she would form a story out of that. We will go back to the she part later on. And so the storyteller would form a story and take it to the palace, and in the evening he will entertain the royal family with it. And this is how kings were aware how their people feel about them. And actually, um, storytellers start to learn the craft and master it, but there were not a lot of kings to hire them. So what they did, it's kind of they verse the role. They go to, for example, there's Jamesna Square and perform for people. And guess what they will tell them? They will tell them about the royal family and how they live. And this is how people start becoming aware how royal families live their daily life. and have adventures.
But
So it's
is that still the case in Morocco? Because obviously you still have a royal family, and it's still sort of ruled by the king. So, uh, is he sort of still kind of a big feature of stories in the square? And that and when we think of Moroccan storytelling, and that's definitely something that's come through on the World Storytelling Cafe, is the square. I'm going to say it wrong now, but Jamais Lava
Jamal.
Square.
Mhm,
I'm going to have to practice saying it. It is this famous square
mhm,
of it's a cultural square, it's an entertainment square, and people busk there, not just storytellers, but
mhm,
sort of circus performers, singers, any entertainers, isn't it?
mhm.
And how old is that square then?
It's it is as old as the city Marrakech. And actually, it was built because it's the very first, let's call it not bus station, but the very first station for economy in Morocco and in Africa, because a lot of convoys, when business was carried around with camels. All the camels are coming from the desert, from sub-Saharan countries, and they are planning to go to Europe or dispatch in other regions of Morocco. They will come first to Marrakech. For example, the famous convoy from Timbuktu going to Europe, it sits in Jamal Square, and so those people, they travel for many days or many months, and they want a source of entertainment when they first reach a city. And this is the importance of Jamal Square, because it provides food, it provides shelter. There are a lot of hotels and hostels around the square, and it provides entertainment in terms of storytelling, musicians. And this is how people started learning from each other, and stories started traveling. I mean, travelers, for example, from Timbuktu, they will bring some stories that they will exchange with a Moroccan storyteller. And this is how the tradition kept reviving and growing. And it started becoming beautiful, and it started becoming a business, a well-established business that people actually live respectfully out of storytelling. And actually, storytellers were the most loved people after the royal family. I mean, people would invite them to their houses just to tell a story or a couple of stories to their children.
Well, of course.
Mhm,
And yeah, well, I totally understand that,
mhm.
and I still do personally, and I think a lot of us here do. And has it? But is it still? Is it become more formalized? I mean, do you need a license now for the square, or is it still just, can anybody rock up and just go, "Oh, I'm a storyteller," or do you have to have a certain amount of credentials?
All right, so that's actually the sad part about Marrakesh and Morocco right now. So actually, storytellers started losing their place in the square, and this is why we are working day and night to gain back that place. Because now Jean Square is and actually all the squares around Morocco. It's not only Jean Square. There is a big square in every city in Morocco. And just 30 years ago, you will find it stuffed with story circles, with a lot of storytellers and musicians. But right now, for example, Jamafna Square, as it's still alive, it's invaded by food sellers. There is a lot of food, which is okay, but it's more than story circles. It's more than artists who are supposed to take one third of the square. And even for the circles that you can find there, it's music, it's loud because they are using loudspeakers. And now storytellers, they don't have any place left, because they need the place to be a little bit quieter, to have their own audience. It's a little bit calm. But now Jamel Square is fast.
Right.
I mean, you feel the rush. You cannot just stop and listen to a story because there is no place actually.
So although like it was lovely when you were saying, for Morocco, Morocco too kind of means timelessness. It's starting to lose that in the square. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I was surprised actually because I haven't asked you yet how you got into storytelling, but you kind of said when you started looking at storytelling, you discovered about the tradition. You were looking in literature. So is that how you came into storytelling? It was about reading about it rather than actually kind of going, oh, there's a storyteller. That's cool. I'd like to do that.
Mhm. Actually, with literature, it came simultaneously with storytelling. So I guess none influenced the other. So my story with storytelling is not like very magical. It's simple, but it's a good story actually. So first year of university, I mean, I was still studying linguistics and literature. I haven't made up my mind yet.
And was
Um,
this in Morocco? Yeah.
in Morocco, yes. So first year, I mean, I was really interested in public speaking. I was fascinated by someone just giving a speech and inspiring others. And I wanted to be the next Jordan B. Peterson. So a friend of mine was organizing a conference, and he invited me as a guest speaker. And he told me that bring another friend, and they brought a friend who is called Sarah, and she was a storyteller that I did not know. She was a colleague of mine in university and back at work. So I invited her to be a speaker. She agreed, but then the conference got canceled, and she told me, "Look, Zouhair, if you're interested in public speaking, maybe I have a good opportunity for you. There is a coffee shop called Coffee Clock, and we have a master storyteller, Haj Ahmed Zargni. And if you would like, you can join us." I told her, "Well, you need to speak to the master first." And she asked him, and he agreed. And then I started becoming a storyteller. As simple as that. Then
And
the journey began.
and obviously, so Morocco is a country of languages. I mean, you were
Mhm,
studying linguistics, so
mhm.
I know that you speak Arabic and I know that you speak English. I'm assuming that you speak French as well, and other languages.
No. So far, that's those three.
Three's pretty amazing to me
Mhm.
as a monolinguist. So I'm assuming that the master storytellers in Morocco that would speak in Arabic. That would be the first language.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
um, but but did you learn? Are the young storytellers learning in Arabic or in all languages, or how is that tradition being carried on?
Actually, when we started working, I mean, as young tellers, I mean, we started performing for in a cafe, in a coffee shop, cross cultural coffee shop, and we've had a lot of nationalities coming to that coffee shop. So we were obliged to perform in English and to master the craft in English. So the master storyteller will give us the story, the essence, the base of the story, and we will work on it and translate it. And actually, the older ones in the program would help us translating the story because it's really hard translating a story from a culture to another. Because what might make you laugh in Arabic is not necessarily going to make you laugh in English. And at the end of the day, people pay their money so they can enjoy their time. They don't want just to hear a story that was translated word per word. So that's how it was going on back then. I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, in Coffee Clock, we will get the story in Arabic. I mean, memorize it by heart, and then translate it and tell it to the other tellers in English. And once they just approve your performance, they inform the master, and he just puts you in the program, and you start performing.
And would he give you feedback then? So, does the master speak English at all?
No, only Arabic.
So was he then sort of critiquing you, but on your audience and how you actually held the story and the rhythm of it, even though he couldn't understand the actual words? I'm guessing that he could still sort of see obviously how you were connecting with the audience and giving you
Mhm.
tips on that. That must have been a really interesting way to learn.
Actually, exactly. I mean, he knows. I mean, I always say it. My first master storyteller, because I've had three so far. I mean, he's very amazing. I mean, he pays attention to a lot of details, even though he does not understand the language. But I always say it to the other tellers, you cannot bullshit Al-Hajj. So if it's a good performance, he knows. If it's bad, he knows. So, and he tells you exactly what was wrong with your performance. Although he does not understand the words about what I mean in English, but he still knows what's a good performance and what's a bad performance. As you said, I mean, it's body language, and also looking at the audience tells everything.
And so are you so he puts you in the program, and that this is an ongoing thing that's happening at Cafe Clock then at a cafe. And but some but you're starting to reclaim the square. So it's kind of like because the Cafe Clock is actually on the square, isn't it? It's on
It's closer. It's very close to the square.
so are
Mhm.
you sort of are you trying to kind of put out an oasis of calm and quiet storytelling, or are you heading out with your amps and just like trying to drown out the music?
Mhm. Actually, there was a downside for the cafe as well, because I mean, this is something I realized later on when I started maturing in the craft. Uh, I mean, Cafe Cloak was not also the best. I mean, it was really great that it was the foundation for young tellers. That was the context for young tellers back then. But later on, I realized that it is a business, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's a little bit noisy because you perform close to the kitchen. I mean, even if a spoon falls on the ground, that made a lot of noise that will distract the storyteller or that will distract the audience. And sometimes there is, I mean, a couple of friends who comes to the cafe. They are not interested in storytelling. They paid money for their meal, and then they started chatting. You cannot just tell them don't chat. I mean, they are not interested. So sometimes you get an audience that is not fully interested in what you do. So there was a downside to it that made us reconsider what happened in Jabal Square. This is how people and how storytellers started losing hope in Jabal Square. And this led to other things that we are going to talk about in this webinar.
I have to say that I think that that is something that goes across cultures, though. I mean, and certainly as a young storyteller, I spent a lot of time doing not great gigs, kind of, and at outdoor festivals, at pubs, where you are having to fight for an audience, and you might have some really tricky nights, but actually, it does hone your skills. It hones your crafts when you have to draw people in and persuade them that they want to be listening to you instead of having their conversation or doing whatever. And you're never going to win everybody,
Mhm.
but and how you keep the people that you have got and not let the the noise distract them. So it's not always the most fun, but I think you probably learn a lot from it, probably all of you.
Mhm.
But I'm also really excited and happy to hear, kind of it was a young storyteller. It was Sarah that brought you into the club, and I have to confess that that was an assumption and a prejudice that I had when I thought about the square and the tellers in the square. I was assuming that most of them would be male, and that it was a male tradition, and that the traditionally that the women's storytelling was more in the houses and more with the children, and that is absolutely an assumption that I'm very happy to have broken down, and please challenge it, because it's and I want to challenge it as well. I would like to replace those pictures in my head.
Mhm. Actually, it's something I found out recently about Morocco, about my own culture. Um, I'm gonna be a little bit political here, but it's due to our colonized history. Because I mean, French colonialization impacted our culture. That was really bad, and they made us I mean, think bad about our culture.
It
And
wouldn't have been
actually,
any better if it was the Brits.
actually, this is what I always tell to my friends. But it's also bad to choose who is going to colonize you. But it's if you are to choose the worst of the two evils, it's gonna be the Brits, because they don't
Sadly.
they don't mess with culture. So they made us think that we have male dominance and there is patriarchy in Morocco. And actually, when I follow history of Morocco, patriarchy is not is a nowadays concept. It exists now in 2021, but in the past, when people think that Morocco was had a lot of patriarchy, actually there was not. And it's not even with storytelling. I mean, let me tell you a story about a friend of mine who sells I mean, houses and villas. He always tells me, I mean, if you want to sell anything, don't talk to the man, talk to the woman, because she's going to be more influential. She has more power to purchase than the man. He only pays if she's happy. He's going to be happy. So always go for convincing the woman, and that actually made me think also about storytelling, because back then I thought that there were no female storytellers. That's what I was made to believe, but actually there were. And I mean, that's written, not only heard of, written in many books. That, for example, the recent I read a book recently. There was a French doctor who came to Morocco, and she started writing about female storytellers. And actually, she was writing about very influential women in Marrakech 100 years ago. And one of those women who will teach women about storytelling, she works in the palace. She works with the royal family, telling them stories. She works with musicians. She was a very important symbol for the Moroccan culture in Marrakech. So that's actually amazing. And I mean, I used to think that, okay, this program in Cafe Clock gave chance to women to perform. And actually, it's good. It's a good start. But that happened hundreds and hundreds of years ago in Marrakech. So that again is another amazing part of Morocco, the Moroccan culture, that we need to reconsider, is that the female presence in the cultural scene and cultural production. I mean, we've had that. We've had strong, influential women 100 years ago, and we need to win them back and get them back to the cultural scene.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I'm really excited to see that. And I know that there's quite a few panels and particular things at the festival that are going to be addressing that and kind of working out how to do that. And it seems like there's quite a lot of young women who are really getting involved and really embracing storytelling and
Mhm.
going out into the square and telling it. Are they, because you're saying it's about reclaiming that culture,
Mhm.
what kind of reception do they get now? Do they find it harder than the men now when you are going out to the square and you're trying to claim an audience, or are people just like, oh yeah, this is fine, this is how it should be?
Can you reformulate the question? I could not
Sorry.
get it 100%.
Yeah. So when do you find now, because obviously you're saying you've got to reclaim the tradition and maybe reclaim some of that equality.
Mhm.
Are Moroccans generally surprised when they see women storytellers now? Or they go, yeah, that it's fine. We kind of expect this. Why shouldn't there be women storytellers. What is it like now, do you think, for women storytellers who are trying to get into that space?
Actually, they don't. It's not like a shock, but they always say something that I used to believe as well. Oh, it's really nice to give women opportunities
Right.
to perform and to be artists, but it's not giving them opportunities. It has always been the case. So this is something I realized, and I want people to realize as well.
Yeah.
I mean, patriarchy is embedded right now in what was given to us in 21st century, in 21st century. But in the past, if you want to know about Morocco, just start studying the past. And this is where storytellers will start playing a huge role in in retelling about the culture and rectifying that image that was given to us.
It sounds such an
Mhm.
exciting time for storytelling in Morocco. Um,
Yes, very.
but but I mean, you it didn't feel that way, I suppose, a couple of years ago, because this is the thing, is that so storytelling in Morocco, it was just starting to blossom. There was the Cafe Clock Square on the edge of the big cultural square, and things were changing, things were happening. Storytelling was being rediscovered a little bit. It was becoming part of the tourism again a little bit. And actually, it sounds quite like Britain in that, kind of we've had a really rich and fantastic history of storytelling, but it's been subsumed by technology and television and radio and amplified music, but having a little bit of resurgence, but also kind of maybe a little bit underground and not particularly mainstream, and not everybody knowing about it. So it's having this kind of quite nice little bubbling up. And then the pandemic hit. And you said, when we talked before, you were saying that at the beginning of the pandemic you thought that was it. Bye bye storytelling. Um, I'll go and find another job. But actually, that's not what's happened at all, is it? So could you tell us about kind of what happened when lockdown came?
Yeah, actually, back in 2019, it was a really nice time for me, especially as I had, I mean, an international festival happening in Morocco. Then I went to Berlin for an international festival. You know what? I mean, it was all lovely until, I mean, I lived in Bulgaria and there was being booked for storytelling sessions. It was all good. But when I came back to Morocco with a lot of hopes and dreams, and um, then COVID hit, and a lot of people started saying that we cannot, pursue storytelling anymore. And actually, I lost hope, and I started looking for another job away from Morocco and away from culture. I was planning to go to China, but um, then I started being booked online. Then I discovered World Storytelling Cafe online. Then the community there starts. I started knowing people, international people, getting ideas, and I wanted to create a concept, but it failed in COVID. It's called ArtCan. I wanted like a kind of business company. I did not know what to do back then, but I was struggling. But when I saw World Storytelling Cafe and international storytellers getting together and not losing hope, I thought, I should not lose hope as well. I should still fight for it. And then after a year through COVID, we met with this amazing guy, Jafar Al Kinsusi. He's a big, culture representative in Marrakech, and together with Jafar, we decided to create a school. And actually, the school was quite successful. I mean, the news of the school started going around. Millions of people around Morocco um, uh, actually vouched and advocates for the school and like the idea. Mhm.
But this isn't a school for children, is it?
No, no, not at all.
It's like a college. It's a school for what, adults, maybe 16 up, 18 up, or older, or
It's 18 up. And actually, I always say it, that school we created is way better than university, because the selection of professors is very nice. I mean, it's not only masters of storytelling, because we did not want to create a typical ordinary profile of a storyteller, just someone who can tell. No, we don't want that. We want someone who masters other arts and who applies that into storytelling. So we were teaching calligraphy, we were teaching about history, other arts, opera, cultural innovation, cultural production, Arabic, English, and French literature, plus storytelling sessions and Sufism, because we believe that the start of storytelling in the Arabic or Muslim world dates back to the beginning of Sufism. So it's very important to understand and dig deep into that doctrine. And that was the approach and the philosophy of the school, is create a storyteller who is polyvalent, that when he or she masters the craft, I mean, they start specializing in something. So if you now you I mean, you graduate from our school, you're a storyteller, but then, for example, you specialize in, I mean, Islamic storytelling. You specialize in storytelling in cinema. You specialize in storytelling and performance. You keep performing. So this is our aim out of the school.
how on earth did you pay for it? I mean, do people pay to come and study, or is it a charity, or I mean, it's just such a
Actually,
big and amazing concept.
it's totally free. And
Wow.
one amazing thing is that we are trying to find funds to pay students to come and study.
Oh, that is incredible. I mean, just amazing. What an amazing achievement. So, how many students have you got at the moment?
Uh, Up to 35. And amazing thing, more women than men.
Brilliant. Yeah, completely brilliant. And it just sounds. I want to come. I want to come and learn. You're never too old to learn, and I think I would learn so much from somewhere like that. And great to learn with other people in that way, to be able to bounce and question and search and talk. How long do people get to go for?
Say it again.
How long do people study for?
I mean, the program is not official, but we think that it's up to 3 years, and then the school cannot do anything else for the students.
Yeah. So you have it. Yes. I mean, I guess the people that are there now, they've been there for a year.
No, not yet. It's only, I guess, 6 7 months. So
Wow,
it's still recent.
brand new.
It is still a baby project.
Oh, but I mean, but it sounds so far like it's just come together brilliantly, and it sounds like it's just doing amazingly well. And I think
Mhm,
you've got people who are waiting and wanting to start and to come next time,
mhm.
haven't you? So just like lots of people are sort of queuing
Yeah.
up for it. It's just yeah, to have set that up so quickly, I think is incredible. And so I might have got this wrong as well, but it also sounds like the master storytellers were struggling, so that you have these people who have made their living through story, who have spent their life honing their craft and being stories, who, they're like you're saying, like 30 years ago started to being edged out of the squares, and over the past 30 years have seen their living dry up, have found it more difficult to get students and apprentices. So it sounds like you have just caught that tradition in time as well, to just
Mhm.
catch that older tradition and that unbroken line. So I'm imagining that they are delighted with you, because they can see that their stories are now being respected and that they are being learned and they are not being lost, which they would have been otherwise, which is just really exciting. I mean, you see these very strong traditions can become very fragile very quickly, and it only takes one broken generation.
Mhm,
So I think I'm so excited about that and to see
mhm,
this new flowering.
mhm.
Um,
Actually,
and
the broken generation is what drives us right now. Why? Because we want to be storytellers, but we want to be as good or better than those storytellers, but we don't want to be in a situation like them, financially speaking. Why? It's because the storytellers right now, the profile of a storyteller, I mean, they're illiterate. They don't know a lot of things. They don't know how business work, how to promote for themselves. But right now, we are in an era that you cannot survive having one single skill. So we want a storyteller to be able to do a lot of things besides storytelling. So if one aspect does not work, millions of other aspects can work for that storyteller. So that's our aim.
I think that's brilliant, and it is. I mean, the way that things have happened so quickly have really changed, and it's, as storytellers generally, we have had to go online. It's been a huge shift. It's still the same core heart of what we do,
Mhm.
and it's still this love of tradition and love of story and that love of dream and imagination and truth that are all bound up within story, but there are different ways of getting that over, and it is about inspiring the next generation and making sure that it survives, but it might not be in quite the same way. And you seem to have been the busiest person over lockdown, because it's not just the storytelling school that you've started. You've got a new. You wouldn't tell me about this before. You said no, I'm going to save it. But are you allowed to talk about it now? This new special project. Hooray! I've been desperate to hear about this.
Actually, it's something that will complete um, the uh, the school's mission. Which is something I created with a team. I've been working on for a whole year to find the right people to work with me. It's a storytellers union for cultural innovation and the art of storytelling. So basically, I don't want to be an association, an NGO that support storytellers. No, I mean, storytelling is something that is traditional. And to be quite honest, I've been very reflective on the audience, but we always get an audience that is, I mean, old people, 40 and plus. And as young storytellers, I cannot build a career on people, on a generation that is going to be there for 20 years. But I want young people to be also involved as audience, because this is something that a lot of associations and NGOs and people who are interested in cultural innovation and cultural production, they always develop the skill, they always develop the product, but they don't work on the audience. They totally forget that they should target an audience and make it ready for what they are going to offer. And actually, I want to focus on that because, I mean, storytelling, the world right now is very fast and very technological. Storytelling should also be, I mean, should also fit into this technological context. I mean, now we are talking about VR, we are talking about a lot of technologies, metaverse. I mean, if storytelling does not follow, it's gonna be dead in 10 years from now. So, I mean, as a lot of artists, I mean, singers and musicians, they start working on building shows on the virtual world. Storytellers should also think about that, so we can get that image that we've had 100 years ago and being the most loved ones in the scene of art. So this is why I want that the storytellers union to be working on. Plus, as I told you, I mean, after graduating from the school, uh, we need storytellers to be specialized in something. The storytellers union will provide that opportunity. So you're a storyteller, but you feel like you can develop your art in cinema. So we will get you movie directors. We will get you script writers to work with and develop a project with. If you are a storyteller but very interested in history, we will get you historians and historiographers to work with, and so on and so forth. So this is the project that I'm very excited for, because it's very good plans um, coming towards the project.
I am hugely excited about this as well. And though I do wonder, I mean, as somebody, as a storyteller who is working with VR at the moment and is really excited about storytelling and virtual reality,
Mhm.
I mean, I've been delighted because I've only had really good reactions. I think the people that don't like it have maybe been quiet, but I was expecting that it would set the cat among the pigeons. I thought people would be some people who would be very dead set against it. And what do your storytelling masters think of your plans? Are they all for it? Are they just what have we let loose in the world?
Actually, it's something that I mean, I don't have a concrete or direct feedback from them about it. I mean, they don't mind it, and they don't have a problem with it, and they don't support it. But I don't think they will be against it, because I mean, this is something that they live. I mean, they need audience. They need a better audience. They need youngsters who are engaged, and also it's not fair for youngsters. I mean, if you keep doing the same things for thousands of years, it's not going to be any better. And why I want this storytellers union to be different, because people recently grew fond of the idea of the last storyteller. I mean, even my fellow colleagues of storytelling, they keep talking about themselves, and they say, I'm the last storyteller over social media. I mean, it's nice. It sounds very, very good. It sounds very exciting. But I don't want to be the last storyteller. I want to be the first one. I want to be the first one in a generation that builds um, another approach of storytelling without losing the bound with culture, without losing the essence of tradition in our stories. Because being the last storyteller does not do anyone any good. It's it only sounds good, but it does not change anything.
I don't think it does sound good to be the last storyteller. It means that you haven't managed to inspire somebody to come and learn your stories. It means that
Exactly.
you haven't managed to inspire somebody who's going to carry that torch onwards. And I don't think, yeah, I'm with you. Nobody should want to be the last storyteller because you have been entrusted. It's your responsibility to give it and find a way to give it to the next generation. Um, we've been talking about story for a long time, and I'm going to ask people, so if you have got this could go in lots of different directions, and I still have lots of questions, but I would really love to hear you tell a story. Would you tell us a little Moroccan story? And then if people do have some questions in the Q&A, we'll have a little look through them
Mhm.
afterwards.
Amy, how long do I have? So I don't surpass.
About maybe 5-6 minutes.
All right.
Is that okay?
All right. I have a very good story. Um, I actually love it because it has a very good meaning. I mean, it's also timeless. This is why I like it. it will work every time. Even 1,000 years from now, it will still make sense. So once upon a time, there lived a rich merchant. And this rich merchant had a lot of cattle, cows, sheep, and there was a shepherd working for this rich merchant. This shepherd would always spend the entire day from sunrise to sunset up the mountain in the forest. One day, the shepherd grew tired and he sat under the shade of a tree and started drinking some milk and eating some dates and trying to get some rest. And he saw a beautiful girl coming out of that forest. I wondered, who is she and why is she wearing a fancy outfit and jewelries? She looks like a princess just coming out of a castle. And when she was nearby, she said, Salaam alaikum. He stood up, started fixing his old, torn, dirty jalaba, and he said, Wa alaikum salam, my lady. She told him, what are you doing here? The shepherd told her, well, I must be the one asking you what you are doing here. I'm a shepherd. I'm supposed to be here in the forest, but a princess like you should not be in this dangerous place. Then she told him, I came here to ask you something. He said, okay, of course. She said, can you marry me? He said, well, yes, but I don't think I'm allowed to. She said, why? I accept. If I accept, you can, and you accept, we can marry each other. And he said, are you sure? She said, yes, I'm very sure. Let's go and marry each other. And he told her, let's run right now to the city. I need to go to the merchant, get my money back, and let's go and marry and start our new life. And they went to the city. Here it was already midday. The merchant was in front of his big shop, and he saw the shepherd coming towards him. And he thought, I mean, it's still not sunset. Why is he back? And then the shepherd told the merchant, well, I'm here to tell you that I'm quitting because I'm getting married. Married? Where did you find your wife? You're always up the mountains. There's no women there, so you must be kidding me. He told him, no, I found this lady. And the merchant, once he saw that woman, he immediately fell in love with her. And he told that shepherd, well, if you allow me to ask her, and if she truly accepts you as a husband, I'll give you my blessing and your money plus a bonus from me. And then he asked her individually, and the merchant told her, why do you want to marry that dirty shepherd? Marry me instead. All that you can see around you, it's my possession. I'm a rich merchant. Then she told him, well, if you want me, I want you as well. Let's marry each other. And he told the shepherd that she wants to marry me and not you. They started making a commotion and they went to the judge. And they told the whole story to the judge. And he said, let the woman in. And if I'll ask her, and whoever she chooses, that's going to be the husband. And God, once the judge sees the girl, he falls in love. He told her, why do you want to marry that shepherd? Look at him. And look at that merchant. He's fat, he's ugly. Look at me. I'm young, I'm handsome, and I'm powerful. Everyone in the city respects me. Marry me instead. She said, okay, I'm going to marry you. Just inform the others. And that's what he did. The two others, the merchant and the shepherd, did not accept. So they went to the minister's palace. They told him the story, and the same thing happened. He falls in love. They started making this commotion. The sultan came in. He asked about what happened. They told him the story from the very beginning to the very end. He asks to see the girl, he falls in love, and they started fighting with each other. The shepherd, the merchant, the judge, the minister, and the sultan. Then the girl, standing in the corner of a very big room, she started laughing and she told them, I may have a solution for you. I'll draw two lines. And she drew the first line near them, and after three steps, she draws another line. She told him, on the count of three, I'm going to start running, and you run after me, and whoever catches me first, I'm going to be his wife. And everyone got excited, especially the shepherd, because he's always up the mountains. He's fit, he's always after goats trying to catch them. So on the count of three, the girl started running, and they started running after her. She ran out of the palace into the city, and people in the city, painters, other merchants, started following her up to this day, and no one could catch her. And that's life. We always run after life. But one thing that is certain, life is always ahead of us. We can never catch it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Zouhair. And I have to say, you really are in all ways taking the tradition on, um, taking on and challenging it, and taking the stories and taking them on into the future. And we are dead bang on 9 o'clock, which is when we allegedly finish, but it is storytelling time. And there is always a little bit more time in the story that we can, if you need to go, it's fine. People, you can go. But if anybody does have any questions that they really, really want to ask Zouhair, now is your opportunity to stick them up in the Q&A or to just make comments on the chat. But if you just want to sit and live with that story and the vibrancy and beauty of life that we are all chasing and celebrating and hopefully wanting to make the most of, then we can just sit in that story and take that with us. And I think everybody is, Zouhair. I think everybody's just in that story, just sitting with it. So thank you so much for being my guest. It's just been a fantastic evening.
Thank you.
So Peter is asking if you already have a stage in the metaverse.
Oh, not yet. Not yet.
It's right at the beginning of of this project, isn't it? It's just sort of, you're just forming the union and just bringing it together. So it's I think you've got the name and the constitution, and it's very much at the beginning. The other question that we did have earlier is Ivana was asking, is your friend Sarah Abashara from Toronto?
Oh, no. It's Sarah Shirid is my friend. Yeah.
Is she going to be at the festival?
Yes.
Fantastic. So of course, that is the other thing that we do need to say before we wrap up, is that the Marrakech International Festival starts on the 12th of February. You can come in person to Morocco if your country's restrictions allow it. Moroccan borders are opening on Monday, on the 7th. So just less than a week. You obviously will have to sort out what the COVID regs are in your country, but hopefully we can all go if we're all being safe and vaccinated and everything else. But you can go even without getting on a plane. There's going to be lots of the events that are live streamed from the very newly built World Storytelling Cafe. So the World Storytelling Cafe, you can Google it online, and there are just, I think, hundreds of performances now, hundreds of sessions with different storytellers from around the world. And there are new live sessions for every day, but then the old ones are archived. But during lockdown, a purpose-built building, a real storytelling cafe with a live streaming suite, with a very posh roof that can, it's like a small Wembley, so the roof can move in and out depending if it's raining. So, but there will be events that are live streamed from there, and I think the program's going to go up on the World Storytelling Cafe site soon, isn't it? It
Mhm.
is all a little bit last minute because we didn't know until a few days ago whether the borders would definitely open, and it's still a little bit kind of get to Friday night and see which storytellers have managed to make it to Morocco.
Mhm.
And then divvy out which session they're going to be in. But there's so much goodwill and a lot of people who have got their plane tickets booked, and then it's a case of hoping that everybody's lateral flow tests come back negative and who actually gets there. So Sabrine is saying, do you have any written sources on Moroccan storytelling or good websites with information on Moroccan storytelling?
Actually, there is a book I'm fond of. Is written by Richard Hamilton. It's called The Last Storytellers. It's actually a good book, especially the introduction. I really love it. The first 30 pages just summarizes storytelling for me. It's really good, and it has good stories.
Great. So that's The Last Storyteller or The Last Storytellers?
The Last Storytellers.
The Last Storytellers by
No,
Richard Hamilton, and websites with information on Moroccan storytelling. Well, I'm going to say that the World Storytelling Cafe, if you put Cafe Clock Storytellers into the World Storytelling Cafe, you can listen to a host of young storytellers. I think all the sessions on there are in English. They're all the Cafe Clock tellers are telling in English on there, though. They will use smatterings of Arabic, and it's really lovely actually when you get that different rhythm within the story. So you can hear quite a few stories there. Sabrina's also asking, are all stories classic stories that are being passed down, or are they new stories?
Um, no, actually, everything is what we work with is either um, the seven famous books in Jamashna Square. So there are seven uh, like biographies that are magical. For example, A Thousand and One Nights. It's a biography for Shahrazad, and seven other books like Azalea book, Amira Datlhimma book, either stories that are written in those sources or oral stories. So oral stories is a story that is passed down from a generation to the other. And actually, those are the most valuable and those are the hardest to get from a master storyteller because that's his value. The more you know of oral stories, I mean, the more valuable you become in the hierarchy of storytellers.
That's not just in Morocco.
Yeah, and
Okay,
actually,
yeah.
something that is amazing. Um, maybe I did not have the chance to talk about it earlier. Is how to become a certified storyteller in Morocco, or a master storyteller. So back then there were 13 storytellers in the square, and everyone specializes in one aspect of storytelling. And you should have a whole set in front of them in which you show and demonstrate all your skills. And if they give you their blessings, they put you on a horse and they roam around the square with you, and it's they celebrate you and they kiss your forehead. And once all of them kisses your forehead, you become a certified, legit storyteller.
And so have you done that, Zouhair?
Oh, not yet. I'm not a master yet. I still need my master of storytelling.
Okay. Well, I wasn't sure if certified and master were different. If that was kind of the beginning, to be certified to tell in the square was like your beginning of being a journeyman, and then you kind of get to be a master. But no, to
To get
become
to
a
be a
master,
master,
to become a
actually,
master.
you can. I mean, tell in the square. That's not a problem. But to be called a master and to be respected and valued, you need to have you need to go through that process and to get the blessings of the masters of storytelling. All of them.
Well, I am looking forward then one of these years to having that ceremony and coming to your
Oh yeah,
ceremony.
that's gonna
I,
be very good.
I
Maybe
don't think it'll be
we'll
too
have it in
far.
the maybe we'll have it in the virtual world.
Oh, well, yeah, well, I look forward to it. I'm sure it won't be too long coming. Um, our time, sadly, is up, but it's been an absolutely splendid evening. Thank you so much for taking the tradition on with us, Zuhair. There's lots of lovely comments on the chat. John saying, you know, fantastic session. Thanks, both of you. Cecilia's saying,
Thank
what a
you.
great evening. Thank you so much for telling us so much about your amazing storytelling tradition and its exciting future. Um, Ivanis and Peter are saying thank you. So I think we've all learned a lot, and I'm certainly just really interested to find out more. And Sabrina, I am sorry, we are going to have to save some of those questions for another time. I've got lots more as well, Sabrina. But for now, thank you to everybody for coming. Thank you for listening. To
Thank you.
those of you who are listening later, you are always welcome to listen live in the room or at a time of your choosing. We're delighted to have your company whenever you can make it. Um, please do subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed it. Please do go and listen to Zouhair, the World Storytelling Cafe. But for now, thank you very much to all of you for helping us to take the tradition on. Good night.
Thank you.